Okay, stop. I know that title sounds dumb, and it kinda is, but I'm not actually calling jumping overpowered. At least, not in the same way that we talk about attacks being overpowered. Like this one, or this one, or this one, or this one, or this one. See, when there's a set of universal gameplay mechanics in any fighting game, odds are that one of them is going to be more important than the rest. And in Ultimate, that option is jumping. Jumps are fundamental to success in Ultimate. And because of this, a fighter's ability to work around jumping is a pretty big part of their viability. That being said, it's still kinda hard to see how a basic game mechanic could be busted. At least not without some perspective. So, let's get some perspective. Break out your gamepads, folks. We're taking a trip to 2014. In Smash 4, shields were crazy good. They had a ton of health, almost never got poked, and most importantly, were super fast to drop, which made it really easy to respond out of shield. Sure, some attacks had so much pushback on block that they practically spaced themselves, but landing a perfect shield would nullify that. And most attacks had enough end lag to be punished for one too. Because of how reliable they were, shields were the defining option of Smash 4. So a character's viability kinda hinged on how well they could handle that. And broadly speaking, fighters had two ways to deal with shields. Good range, or a good grab game. Not only did both of these counter shield, but they also tended to synergize with it as well. So characters needed at least one or the other to contend in the meta. Seriously, a good grab game was so important for viability that it's actually faster to list off the high tiers that didn't have one. And even then, they compensated by being so oppressive in other ways that their opponents were pretty much forced to take throws. On the other end of the tier list, DK and Bowser languished in the low tier until balance patches gave them extremely potent combo throws that almost single-handedly turned them into more viable counter picks, even if their new design was questionable.
In Smash 4, everybody's doing one thing. Everybody's doing their one thing over and over and hitting your shield, and everybody just sitting in shield and waiting. Donkey Kong says, fuck that, get the hell out of your shield, you're dead.
Oh! What the?
So yeah, Smash 4 was centralized around this fucking thing. So what? Well, fast forward to Ultimate, and shields are a bit more, In the jump to Ultimate, shields got worse in almost every regard. Shield health drains faster. Dropping shield takes longer. Perfect shields now riskier. Shield pokes way pokier.
Myran, how could you possibly be vulnerable? Look at your nice, generous head covered in your... Bada bing! Bro, what did he even poke?
Now, there were some concessions. Shield pushback was reduced hard, which made it easier to punish poorly spaced attacks. And in addition, the new perfect shield/parry system gave the defender more time to react and punish than they had in 4. But that didn't change the fact that shielding was just riskier overall now, and not the catch-all it once was. All of these changes were part of an intentional effort to push Ultimate away from Smash 4's shield-dominated gameplay and towards an aggressive, movement-based meta. So, Ultimate added a 1.2 times multiplier to damage in one-on-ones, cut back the landing lag of every aerial by about 40%. Wait, 40%? What the fuck? And most notably, made everyone faster. This was done by raising run speeds and air speeds, sure, but it was also done by making changes to an easily missable part of every character's mobility. Jump squat is the wind-up for jumping off the ground. The longer a character's jump squat is, the longer it takes them to jump. And like any other physical stat, it's character specific. In the past, jump squat's gone all the way from Melee Fox's lightning fast 3 frames, a 20th of a second, to Brawl Snake's agonizing 9-frame jump squat, or a whole 1/6 of a second. But historically, most characters have stuck around the 4 or 5 frame range, with 4 being the lowest any character went in Brawl or Smash 4. So, Ultimate, wanting to make the game faster, decided to speed things up for everybody. Fox is back on top, getting his Melee 3-framer back. That's pretty good. Did anyone else get a 3-frame jump squat? Oh. So, unique to Ultimate, everyone now has a 3-frame jump squat. Well, except Kazuya, he's stuck with 7 because fuck him. Now, this certainly accomplishes the goal of making the game faster, and it does enable more fighters to do insane combos like this, But there are more ramifications to giving everyone the fastest jump squat ever than just juicing their combo game. For one, it massively boosts vertical mobility across all characters, especially among the ones who either used to have a terrible jump squat or newcomers that almost definitely would've. Here's Incineroar. He doesn't run fast, his ground moves don't have much range, he's the poster child of slow heavyweights. He does, however, have quick and active aerials that are very good at covering his landing, and because he falls so fast, they cover a massive area. Now, what do you think will happen? Will Incineroar grin and bear his run speed and defy the odds? Or use his massive, long-lasting, lingering aerials bolstered by the fastest jump in Smash history and turn it into a game of fucking leapfrog? I mean, why would he do anything else? Incin moves up and down way faster than he does left and right, and if he ever ends up jumping into a bad situation, well, that's what double jump is for. Sure, there are plenty of situations where he's better off grounded, but those are usually when he's already got his opponent cornered and doesn't need to move in anymore. And remember, every character jumps like this now. Every character has near instant access to their aerials in Ultimate. Aerials that had a 40% reduction in their landing lag from Smash 4 and are now insane pressure tools, especially with how much weaker Shield's got. Speaking of which, guess what the best way to get out of Shield is now? Because of Smash 4's shield pushback and slower jumps, it wasn't uncommon for a fighter's attacks to auto-space themselves against aerials out of shield. But now that both of those factors are gone, fast and strong aerials have gone from a nice perk to a make or break factor in a character's defense, in addition to making or breaking their offense too. But why not just hit the opponent before they jump too far? Well, jump squats are literally only the beginning. Pop quiz. In Smash 4, how long does it take Mario to jump over his own height? That is, how quickly can he go from here to here? The answer is 13 frames, just shy of a quarter second. How about in Ultimate? His jump squat got cut down by 2 frames, so doing the math, it should be around 6. Mario takes 6 frames to clear his own head, or a tenth of a second. As you can probably guess by now, massively sped up jumps are a universal buff in Ultimate, which was a change intended to make jumping feel more responsive.
実は極端に強い上昇速度を最初に与えています。そして数フレーム間、落下速度も極端に強くしています。キュッと減速後、落下速度を普通に戻しています。これをしている理由は、プレイヤーの反応が少し遅れても対処できるようにするため。なかなかこういうの気がつかないでしょ。
It's true, this new jump does feel great to use, but to play against? They might have made jumps a bit too responsive. Here's the thing. Out of the 89 characters in Ultimate, 54 of them can jump over their own height in 7 frames or less. That's 60% of the roster able to jump over stuff like dash attacks, low projectiles, grabs, low pokes, whatever, in about a tenth of a second. Dashing away couldn't dream of moving that fast. Because of this, stopping a character from jumping is harder than it's ever been, and a lot of moves that previously were great at stopping jumps from happening just can't anymore, even if the move technically got buffed. And because jumps rise faster, that also means they start falling faster. So right after slipping out of pressure, the jumper can see if their opponent overextended, and if so, drop down with one of their super lagless aerials, and why would you do anything else? So, like how viability in Smash 4 was largely based on how well a character can handle strong shields, viability in Ultimate comes down to how well a character can handle strong jumping. And looking at the latest tier list, that's pretty apparent. After the bottom 2 fighters, who kinda just can't do anything, the low tiers are filled with zoners that struggle to safely cover themselves against jump-ins, characters with recovery so dependent on their double jump that losing it is a death sentence, and characters that, honestly, just aren't built to take advantage of high verticality. Getting further up the tier list, characters become more rewarded for leaning into Ultimate's design, having things like recoveries that don't rely heavily on double jump, better aerials for starting combos, out of shield options to punish landing aerials, extremely high jumps for catching panic jumps, large hitboxes that win air-to-air interactions, great air mobility to weave around attacks, strong and spammable anti-airs. By the time we get to the top tier, characters usually hold multiple of these traits at once. Insane verticality, fantastic aerials, unreactable degrees of speed, or playstyles disgustingly oppressive to jumps. Wanna know why Steve is the best character in the game? It's because he closes off all methods of approach except jumping at him from really high up, then spams a billion anti-airs that all do upwards of 50%, and not playing this game just lets him farm for more resources. Obviously, jump management isn't the end-all be-all of viability, but looking at Ike, a character that jumps and nothing else, and Kazuya, a character that stops jumps and nothing else, and seeing that they're on nearly opposite sides of the tier list, it's hard to ignore how much of a hand it plays. I know I've been putting the jump changes in a pretty negative light, but let me be clear here. Compared to shield spam, it's an improvement. Sure, it's annoying that almost every character is roided up vertically now, but it does allow for more characters to be viable than before. And it's also cool that everyone's not waiting around for the other guy to fuck up and die to a power shield at 60. I love both of these games, and whether you prefer the defensive gameplay of Smash 4 or the insane verticality of Ultimate is entirely up to your personal opinion. Speaking of personal opinion, footstools, the weird cousin of jumping. Basically, pressing jump over someone's head will let them be used like a springboard. In Smash 4, footstools had some crazy applications, mainly because it forced the victim into a gargantuan amount of stun, even if they hit the ground. So, players could do pretty much whatever they wanted. Ultimate reduced that stun and let you break your fall out of footstools, so they lost most of their offensive power. Unfortunately, the lab rats found something far worse. Fighters can't be footstooled while they're in the middle of an attack animation, since Ultimate doesn't want them being interrupted by a jump. But it does make an exception for landing lag animations. Because of this, it's actually possible to footstool someone for pressuring shield, which is really easy to do when every character's jump squad is frame 3. And if the character doing a footstool has the right kind of move, the footstool animation can be comboed into an attack, sometimes a really strong one. I do not like this, for a few reasons. First, this disproportionately hurts short-range fighters who can't space around footstool out of shield. I wonder why that gets to me so bad. Second, it bypasses intended weaknesses in a way that's kinda lame to fight. Like, Sephiroth has some of the slowest out of shield options in the entire game. This was intentional. He was designed to be a great fighter at long range and a terrible one at close range. But with footstool out of shield, that doesn't matter anymore. Now, if any of those thoughtless, barbaric, close-range freaks get near him, he can just... Even without a good attack, footstooling allows for characters to escape pressure and stun their opponent while they get into a better position. Not only out of shield, but also out of edge guards and ledge traps. It's pretty irritating to deal with, but at least they need to time their jump to the landing lag, right? Right? Well, just because you can't be footstooled doesn't mean that they can't do one. Whenever a footstool is done on someone who can't be interrupted, the game makes a compromise using something called a phantom footstool. Phantom footstools act like regular footstools with a few key differences. 1. The footstool noise plays, but nobody gets footstooled. 2. The ring that appears below double jumps is yellow instead of white. And 3. The user gets full invincibility from frames 1 through 4. Being invincible for a 15th of a second might not sound like a big deal, but because of how goddamn fast phantoms move, this invincibility is stretched out over a massive range, giving practically no chance for shorter range characters to stop it.
I wonder why this gets to me so bad.
Not only does this act as a frankly unnecessary degree of insurance for whiffing a footstool, but it also enables options that people really shouldn't be getting away with. In this clip, Steve is hit by Zero Suit's up air. She goes for a second one and... misses. For the record, air dodging wouldn't be fast enough to get out of the situation, since Steve's air dodge starts on frame 3. Steve was going to take this hit. Instead, thanks to Phantom Footstool's frame 1 invincibility, he phases through an entire attack and just resets to neutral. How about this one? In this clip, Dr. Mario whiffs his edge guard against me. He knows I'm gonna try and hit him here, so he swings early to catch me coming off the ledge. Unfortunately for him, my jump turned into a phantom. So instead of hitting me, he whiffs entirely as my nair comes out, and he dies for it. Seriously, I am engulfed in his attack. What right did I have to win this situation? Just to tie this 5-minute tangent back into the rest of the video, I don't think footstools are straight up bad. There's a lot of interesting and fun things to do with them, its current implementation just feels kind of antithetical to what speeding up jumping was supposed to do. Faster jumping was a step in the right direction. A frame 4 anvil out of shield was not.
At least 3.
What is that?
Oh yeah, you could put sword as shield. It's like frame 4 out of shield.
This isn't Smash Bros.
Hopefully footstools get toned down whenever the next game comes along, but for now, I guess the best we can do is just be aware of it. I mean, the last thing I think we'd want is to give someone a free ride back to stage with it, right? Jumps are broken.